This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. So you think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance to win weekly prizes and a share of that 200K. So when the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here.
And just when all hope was lost after losing the first 2 games of a 4-game wraparound series, the Dodgers come from behind in game 3, blow out the Braves in that last inning of work, feasting off Braves closer Iglesias. And then today on Monday night before they head off to Miami, the Dodgers take care of business yet again. The offense explodes, except they only got 4 hits in this one, but they ended up scoring 9 runs. They take care of the Atlanta Braves. They split a series where it looked like everything was kind of lost. They had so many bad news come out with injuries, inconsistencies this entire probably a couple series since we talked about it when they lost. They split against the Angels and they lost 2-3 to the Chicago Cubs. But yeah, the Dodgers come out of this. I feel like the vibes are really high right now, and we're back again. Wraparound series kind of throwing us a little bit of a curveball, kind of ending on a Monday. So we're doing the weekly rewind a little bit a day later. And joining us again is Carlos, who's happy to always help us out on the show. So Carlos, let's just get right into it. This Braves series, how big of a statement was it that the Dodgers came back and won those final 2 games? Because it seemed like the sky was falling after those first 2 losses.
Yeah, definitely the sky was falling with the news of Glasnow, with the news that he left the team. And so, I mean, I think I heard, I think it was with Roberts, or I think Oro was mentioning that, it just the whole team felt dejected after hearing the news. Then you take a bad loss on Saturday, on Saturday, and so and us as fans watching the game, I know we're like, oh my God, this team won't make it, But you know what, I mentioned, tomorrow's a new day, things will be different. And we got to have hope that that Buehler is going to have a good game, which he did. Buehler had his best outing of the season. He did have a lot of walks. That's something that he needs to work on, but his, he went 5 innings, I believe, 5 innings. He allowed 1 earned run. And so, that's a big plus. That's a big plus because we had said that Glasnow was the X factor. Now, well, he's not coming back. So it's Flaherty, Yamamoto, and now Buehler's going to be game 3, game 4, depending on what happens with Stone, depending on what happens with Kershaw. But it was a great outing, so that was great. So then we get the back-to-back home runs in the top of the 9th, and we destroyed the Braves closer, and everything that they kept saying on I think it was ESPN. They were saying how this guy's a great closer, the best. So look, the Dodgers are a scrappy team this year. They're different than other years. That's what I'm seeing. And then today's game was impressive. Yamamoto wasn't as sharp. He didn't have all those strikeouts that he did in his first game back, but he kept us in the game. He was able to hunker down when they had the leadoff triple, the leadoff double. So that was great. And then Miggy just being Miggy. He has done so much for this team. He's truly, besides Edmund being the X factor of late, Miggy the whole season has been that X factor. He's been such a key component of this team. And today's play, just everything he did, stealing third base, going home on that wild pitch, that single he hits when he slips off at home play after he swings. He just played a great game, and it was nice to see. I know that Freddie's in a little slump, and it was nice to see him, get a hold of one opposite field and clear the fence by a couple of inches. So that was great. So overall, we shut him down 18-2 in the last 2 games. So our pitching, I mean, that says something about our pitching, after giving up so many runs the first two games. So we just have to stay positive and I know we are on Otani watch, and that's been put on pause for a little bit, and we'll see what he does in Miami. But yeah, I feel good. I think the Dodgers made a big statement splitting this series.
Yeah, and speaking of Otani watch, this is the first series where he hasn't hit a home run or stole a base in quite some time. So I know before when we were on the live, when we recapped the Chicago Cubs series. So if any of you guys want to listen to what our thoughts were during that series, where they ended up dropping 2 of 3 before they took on the Braves for a 4-game series, be sure to check that out on the main YouTube channel. But yeah, coming into this series, we thought Otani was going to go off. I thought the pitching matchups, seeing Chris Sale was probably like the one game I was looking at where I was like, probably feels like a loss, and it ended up being a loss. Chris Sale looked absolutely filthy, disgusting. What I found surprising when I was doing, my research for the series preview and then kind of when I'm watching these games is despite the Atlanta Braves like missing Spencer Strider and a lot of other guys like on their roster due to season-ending injuries, their rotation and pitching staff has been really, really good. I think the only Achilles heel is what the Dodgers took advantage of this entire series, and that was their bullpen. Their bullpen, they just seemed to feast off. But I'm telling you, and a lot of Phillies fans that I'm friends with, they call me crazy, but this is a Braves team where we've seen them do it before where if they sneak in, they could string together some wins. Because I know everybody's freaking out about the Dodgers starting rotation not having, like 4 or 5, like a full rotation of arms. But Carlos, you don't need that many arms in October. I've seen the Phillies get by with two arms. The Dodgers in 2020, they didn't have a full rotation of arms either. They had bullpen games that were being thrown in there. The Braves are another team where it seems like they got the NL Cy Young winner. I'm just going to say it right now. He's probably going to win. It's going to be close to a unanimous. Chris Sale's probably going to run away with that award. You got him leading the charge. You got a lot of guys behind him. The rookie that through game 1 was carving up the Dodgers. Charlie Morton, seems to, is just every year he gets older, it just seems like he just becomes more consistent, which, that's just the type of arsenal he's had. He's been playing for a very long time. But I think the Dodgers losing those first 2 games, it was hard because you expect Landon Knack to go a little bit deeper. He had a really good start his last time out. He gets kind of embarrassed. The most runs he's given up, I think, all season. He only goes 2 innings. That kind of throws a wrench into the Dodgers pitching plan for probably the entire series because you already had to think they were assuming that Yamamoto was only going to go 4 innings, so they had to get the bullpen for that game. Then you pretty much have a bullpen game to open the series, and then Walker Buehler, thankfully, he actually gave the Dodgers 6 innings, one more than what we said earlier. Like 6 solid innings, 5 walks, 1 run. He looked awesome this series. I hope it's something that he can build off. I know I myself have been very critical of Buehler and especially Bobby Miller this season. And honestly, the truth of the matter is that if the Dodgers are going to be successful this October, especially given the Glasnow injury, especially given the Kershaw injury and Gavin Stone kind of being in the middle right now, who hasn't even, I think he may have started his throwing program or is going to pick up a ball in Miami. Buehler's going to be starting a postseason game, guys. So we just have to turn a page, root for this guy's success. Hopefully he can take it. But I'll tell you what I liked. He had some swagger. He literally was not taking any shit on the mound. Whit Merrifield getting mad at a high and in wasn't really in. It was more high than anything. And Buehler struck him out on a slider down and away and had some stuff to chirp at him. I like that type of stuff in baseball. That's kind of just that gets me going when I'm watching the game because it shows that the players do care. So I hope he can carry this. Realistically, Yamamoto has like 2 starts remaining until the end of the season. Buehler's probably going to get 1 or 2 more starts. So they have to build off this, stay healthy. I think that's the big thing right now is they just have to stay healthy, don't fall apart because I don't think the starting rotation can take another hit right now, Carlos. Like, are you in that agreement? Like, if they lose 1 more arm, I feel like we're getting to the point where you may have to pitch. I think you may have to go to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, no, this is, we said before, and, we got to take some of the stuff we said. We said if Buehler and Miller and Kershaw are, if we're depending on them to be in the postseason starting rotation, we're in trouble. But you know what? We have to turn that page, like you said, and we have to root for Buehler. And Buehler, thank God, had a great outing. Yeah, you're right. He went 6, not 5. He only allowed 3 hits. It's just the walks, his command, and I think it's really one inning that where he lost his command and he had walked 2 or 3 batters in that inning. But yeah, you definitely got to root for the guy. And yeah, you're right. I love that too, where where the guy's not, he doesn't take any crap from anybody, and he's always been that way. So that's great. And then just wanted to touch on what you said about Chris Sale. Definitely Cy Young and also a Triple Crown winner too for pitcher. So yeah, we need these guys. It's important. No more injuries. Hopefully, Flaherty. I mean, look, in the level of competition we're going to have for the remaining, I think it's 12 games. Nine are against teams that are completely eliminated. The Rockies, the Marlins. But we got to go in there. Hopefully these guys throw 5-6, get out of there. We got to lead, and the bullpen get some rest. The only games that we really have that are competitive are going to be against the Padres, and hopefully we have a nice big lead. Because if we don't, and we're only 3 ahead, the Padres are going to be hungry. They're going to be coming to try to take that title from us. So yeah, staying healthy is going to be probably the most number one priority going down the stretch.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And, like you said, their last remaining games, there's only 12 games left of the regular season once this is posted. And, it's going to October's fast approaching. They have 2 series against the Rockies, a series against the Marlins, and then a series against the Padres. The Padres is probably the only one that's really going to be super impactful. But hey, if the Dodgers take advantage of that weak schedule, with the Marlins and the Rockies, like I'm saying, you have to go in there. You have to treat every game like it's a postseason game. You have to win. The division is not guaranteed. A playoff spot technically still isn't guaranteed yet. They haven't clinched that either. But after today's win, splitting the series with the Braves, the magic number is 9. I mean, the Padres, with every Dodgers win, their chances of winning the division continues to go down. We're looking at a possibility. I assume the Dodgers, because that's the second to last series of the year, they possibly can clinch the division that week. So that'll be interesting, especially if the two clubs meet in the postseason again. But before we move on, any other closing thoughts about the Braves? I know you brought up Miguel Rojas. I think one thing that is huge in my book is how the defense played today. And I think Dave Roberts made it a point, because even the beat writers said, they had a team meeting. They said, hey, we're better than what they're saying we are. We have the starting pitching. But Dave Roberts has been very hypercritical of this defense, and Max Muncy had some really good plays. They played the infield in quite often today, try to play run prevents, and everything just seemed to work today. Sometimes that works, especially that relay between Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez to get Michael Harris out at home. So defense was good. Is there any other closing thoughts before we move on?
No, no, just add to the defense. Yeah, that was an incredible play with Edman relayed to Hernandez and then to home on a short hop. It was a great play. And yeah, I was going to mention Muncy too, with those shots from I think Acuna hit both of those shots. And he snagged him at third base, and he looked so comfortable too. And the nice thing is that the throws across the diamond were right on. Freddie didn't have to dig him out or stretch too far out. They were good throws. So yeah, Max Muncy actually, since he's been back, looks a lot better at third base. I like Hernandez at second over Taylor, and he's played a good second base. The only question mark I had was Mookie at right field. And I think it's because he hasn't played there since last season. And then he just came back from his injury, and then he came back to play right field. There's a lot of balls that he's just kind of misreading, and I don't want to say, because it's all good so far right now with the Dodgers. Everything's good. I just wanted to point that out, that he just kind of looks, I don't want to say lost, but I think he looks kind of, it shows that he hasn't played there, in a while.
Yeah, I actually don't think you're wrong there. Looking at his stats from the last time I checked in terms of like fielding percentage and outs above average, he is below par in right field. That was a continuation from like 2022 and last season, where he was sub average at the position. Yeah, there was a couple balls hit this series where, I'm kind of usually like you go back like what 3 or 4 years ago. You're like, yeah, it's Mookie Betts out there. That's like a 6, 7 time Gold Glove winner, Platinum Glove winner. We don't need to worry about it. But some of his routes this series kind of were weird. That brick wall, the one today that hit right off the brick wall, I don't fault him for that just because who put the brick wall out there? Who's designing these stadiums in MLB right now? Just doesn't seem. Will Smith's the almost home run the night before, ricocheting off the brick wall, and then today kind of it going into no man's land. But it is something to watch because it is a position. Even though he has played there for the majority of his career, it's a position he hasn't really played too often the past 2 seasons, especially this year where they only put him in there right when he was activated in August. So that's definitely something to watch as we go forward as well.
Cody, one more thing. So I wanted to add where Kopech, we know that his last outing he had a lot of walks, and then this outing, I think it was the first batter he walks, and the next batter gets on, and it was I don't know if it was just I don't know if I didn't notice before, but I feel like the first two batters he was hitting like 98, 99. After those two guys got on, I mean everything was 100, 101. He was challenging batters, right down the middle, inside, up high. I mean it was great to see him at that form. And what was even better was to see him like just yell out when he got the third out and he got the strikeout, because I mean that's what you want that's what you want from these players. You want that intensity, especially at this time of the year when you're playing for something. We're playing to win the division. I mean, if we can win the whole thing, it'd be great. But if we can win I'm talking about the National League, be number one seed. But that was great to see him pitch that well. It was great to see the bullpen pitch. Phillips pitch well today because I know he had a bad outing on Saturday where he allowed 5 or 6 runs. So those were good signs. I mean, those were confidence builders for these individual players. So going to Miami, hopefully we don't have a letdown. Hopefully we can, keep that, that foot on the accelerator and just get the sweep in Miami and come back home. I think they're off on Thursday. No, they're not. I don't think they're off. They're probably playing through. I think they're playing through. So it's going to be a tough little stretch. They're going to be tired. So hopefully the bullpen can get some rest because, it's going to be, that East Coast, West Coast swing.
Yeah, and it kind of segues into our next point. The Dodgers bullpen has been overworked, and a huge reason for that is because their starting rotation is just missing multiple arms right now. And since the beginning of September, they haven't really gotten many quality starts. Only 3, which is the 4th worst in the National League. Their starters ERA is over almost 6.5 runs, which is the worst in the NL. Their FIP is the worst in the NL at 5.55. Innings pitched, they are the second worst at 59.2, just underneath the San Francisco Giants, who actually don't have only one starter. They only have Logan Webb. They have nobody else. So I guess if there is a team that does have it worse than the Dodgers, it's them. Third worst in WHIP. That's something that we've seen a lot of these guys struggle with walks and everything along those lines. But let's get into it. We brought up his name earlier, and that's Tyler Glasnow, which it seems, when we were here on this live last week, we thought, we were in good spirits. Hey, Dave Roberts said he's going to start facing live hitters when they get to Atlanta. That ended up getting canceled almost minutes before it was set to begin because Glasnow was feeling some type of discomfort. Later, he gets an MRI. Dave Roberts, the day of, says it's promising. The next day, 24 hours later, is saying that it's a right elbow sprain, which likely means that his season is over. What are your thoughts on Glasnow being done? How big of a impact is this to the Dodgers rotation, their plans for October? Like, just how big of a gump punch is this right now?
Yeah, it would be a lie for me to say that it's not a big deal. It definitely is. He was the X factor. Once Yamamoto came back and he looked good the first outing, he looked okay the second outing. But now that we know Glasnow is most likely not coming back, yeah, it's a big, big hit. And then to soften the blow, though, Buehler's outing on Sunday, and then you have hopes that he can continue this kind of, pitching into the playoffs. So, yeah, it's a big hit no matter what, because we were thinking 1, 2, 3, Flaherty, Glasnow, and Yamamoto. But now that's a scratch. We have a question mark on Stone. We don't even know where he's at. So right now it looks like, Flaherty, Yamamoto, Buehler, and game 4 is probably a bullpen game, So, yeah, it's a big hit. Did they know earlier? Who knows? But it's like I think on the telecast they were talking about that Roberts had a a meeting with the players, and he mentioned how, hey, you know what? I believe in you guys. I think that the players that are left on this team have enough to win the World Series. And I mean, that's the attitude that, as a fan, that I have, and that's an attitude I'm sure that all the players have, especially after hearing that from Robert. So, yeah, despite being a big blow, you got to kind of like put it behind us and move forward and just, like we said earlier, root for Buehler to be that Buehler of old.
Yeah, Glasnow, I was his biggest fan, coming into this all winter. I preached that the Dodgers should go full in on this guy. You look at his stats, everything just screams, ace. He is one of the nastiest pitchers. He's got the velocity, he's got the breaking pitches. And this year, he did take a step forward. He pitched a career high in innings pitched, most starts, most strikeouts of his career, middle of the pack in ERA, just due to a rough middle of July and June. But his WHIP was under 1, which is elite. 2.90 FIP means he was getting the job done, and a 253 batting average of ball in play, and that's just going to get the job done. And I think the big thing for the Dodgers is that of his 22 starts, 14 of them were quality starts. So that means he went 6 innings and gave up 3 runs or less in those starts. So that's something that's going to be critical for the Dodgers in October, where they're going to try to find some way to get a 9-inning game complete, especially if it's, a tight game, tight race. They already said Yamamoto isn't going to go on 4 days rest. He's going to go on 5-6 days rest, no matter what type of game implications are on the horizon. I feel like it's been a while since we've even seen a Dodgers starter go on short rest probably since 16 when Kershaw did it. That's probably the last year I remember that it happened. But yeah, it's a huge blow. And I see a lot of talk right now, and this is kind of an interesting question I kind of want to shoot your way. A lot of people are saying, the Dodgers gambled and they gambled wrong, and I'm kind of interested to see your take if you think they should have went after another arm, or were you okay with Glasnow? Were you okay with the risk in terms of the reward that the Dodgers could have gotten? Because, if he was here in the playoffs, he would be a game changer, and I just think, you can't think backwards, but I'm interested to see on your take on that.
I've always liked Glasnow. I think it was a good pickup. Was there a risk? Definitely. When I think of Glasnow, I think of like Chris Sale. Like Chris Sale's having like an amazing year, and he's also injury prone, and it's worked out for the Braves. It's just kind of like this crapshoot. You're taking a chance on these guys, and you don't know what's going to happen. I heard too a lot on social media. I read, oh, you see, Dodgers shouldn't have got rid of Paxton. Well, Paxton went to the Red Sox and got hurt. So I don't know what they're talking about. So it's just, unfortunately, it's baseball. It's just the way it is. Some players are going to get hurt, and there's not much you can do. I think the risk was, there was high reward, but there was definitely risk. And, it didn't pan out. It doesn't look like it's going to pan out because I don't think he's going to pitch in the playoffs. But, it happens. I just think this is part of baseball. You take a chance on some players, and it just, doesn't work out. I mean, Glasnow, he's hurt, and Yamamoto too. We thought when he got hurt that he was done, but he came back, and that would have been that's huge risk. They gave him so much money, highest paid pitcher ever. And so hopefully, he's healthy through the whole postseason run. And, it's just, I think, like I said, I think it's just something that teams have to take a chance on, and it's no one's fault.
Yeah, I think if I'm the Dodgers and I go back to winter, even with, in hindsight, I'd still pull the trigger on the deal. I think out of all the arms that were available in the winter via trade, he was the best option. Corbin Burns was probably on that same tier, but I just don't think that the Brewers were going to trade, in the National League, especially to a contending team like the Dodgers, get him over in the American League, trade him to the Orioles, feast off their farm system. But Tyler Glasnow was the guy. I think the whole thing with him is that it's just timing. If this had happened the same time Yamamoto, had his injury, a sprain you can deal with as long as it's not a full tear. Just take a couple months off and then come back in late August, September, and get ready for October. In this case, the Dodgers don't have that luxury. They're out of time. There's only, 2 weeks, 12 games left of the regular season, and then postseason baseball is starting up. The Dodgers, they're going to shut Glasnow down, and he'll go from there. More than likely, his season's is probably over. I don't expect him to come back for the postseason. But the Yankees had the same thing happen with Garrett Cole. He had a right elbow sprain, but his happened during spring training, and he got to come back in the middle of the season. The Dodgers are just unfortunate to have it happen so late in the season, and there is risk. There's risk with Glasnow. He's had a lot of health issues. He battled an oblique injury. He's had Tommy John before, but he gave you pretty much everything he had. He had a career year. Yeah, I know. I think when at the end of the season, when I'm reflecting and I'm writing, the review articles for, the off season grades for the starting rotation, I'll probably give Glasnow, still a high grade because he, like I mentioned, he set a career high in innings pitched, set a career high in starts, quality starts, strikeouts, and whip, and like all these other stats. He was elite, and it's just, that's just baseball. That's just sports. You don't get everybody. You don't get the roster at 100% that you saw the team put together in the offseason. That rarely happens. And then you bring up a great point. Chris Sale has been injury plagued since the Red Sox won the 2018 World Series, and look at him right now on the Braves about to win, the NL Cy Young and the pitching Triple Crown. You got to take risk, and I think the Dodgers took a right risk. It just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, and it like I said, we got to move on now, and we got to figure out what we're gonna do. I know Miller throws tomorrow, and hopefully now I'm rooting for Miller. Hopefully he has a good game, and hopefully he can be the game 4 starter. Because like I said, we're Stone is a question mark. We don't. I personally haven't heard anything. If he's going to throw a bullpen session or anything. So, Miller is the guy. We got to root for him. Hopefully he can figure it out. Hopefully, maybe watching Buehler having a great game, maybe that's some sort of motivation for him. And like I said, he'll have a good game, and we can go from there.
Yeah, and then a couple more injury notes. Like you said, Gavin Stone's the big question mark right now. He is set to throw, not a bullpen, just start a throwing program, picking up a ball, hopefully during the Miami series. We'll see what happens with that. If he starts throwing and has shoulder issues still, I'm just going to rule him out for the rest of, the season, the rest of October. Clayton Kershaw is another guy, he's still trying to come back. At least for him, none of it's arm related. It's all just contingent on that big toe. Dave Roberts said it's a little bit more than just bone spurs. Says it could be some ligament damage in there that's really, setting a fire on his foot when he's pushing off the mound. I read the LA Times article by Jack Harris. He going over what Kershaw's been trying to do. We've seen that he's been wearing a boot. When it first happened, he'll throw barefoot just because it feels better without shoes. He's consulting Skechers about just different soles and different styles of cleats. That way it can just feel comfortable. And Dave Roberts did say that it's more than likely he's not coming back during the regular season. But are you confident that Kershaw's going to be taking the ball for a playoff game? Because it just seems like everything's aligning for that right now.
I think it all depends on how far we get into the playoffs. If we make it to, if we got to make it past the NLCS, get it to division series, maybe there Kershaw might be ready to pitch. But I think a lot has to do how far we go. If we get to the World Series, maybe Stone will be ready. So it's this has been quite the season with the pitching injuries. I was talking to Roger off the air earlier today or yesterday, and we're just putting out the name of all the pitchers that have been hurt. May, Goslin, Sheehan, Ryan. The list goes on. Hurt. It's like, is it the players just not built the same, or is it something that the organization is doing? Because I'm sure we'll probably lead the league in injured pitchers. And other teams are not having that kind of like. Especially the Phillies. You mentioned the Phillies all the time, and you're right. I think Ranger Suarez was off for a little bit, but other than that, they don't seem to have the same issues that we're having as a starting rotation. So what is it? Maybe we should kind of let these guys go, the young guys go, and trade them for veteran pitchers that their arms are, I guess, built up to pitch more than these young guys. I'm not sure what the solution is, but it's kind of mind blowing just what's happening with these pitchers.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just a Dodgers thing. I just think the Dodgers are the epicenter of it, because a lot of the things that are sexy in baseball right now have been revolutionized by Andrew Friedman and the analytical department in the Dodgers system right now, where they've worked with the people at Driveline who have kind of revolutionized the pitching philosophies. And I like we had Andy McCullough come on a month ago with talking about his new book, The Burden of Greatness, the Kershaw's biography. And like when I was reading it, it shows the shift when, as soon as Andrew Freeman came in to the front office, super analytical. They wanted to change philosophies for everything. And the way pitchers are even brought up now from middle school, high school, college, they are trained differently than pitchers, that were born in like the 90s or the 80s. And it's just a whole different type of game right now. They want to push, velocity, spin rate, and that's this type of stuff that hurts your arm. But I think to say it's just a Dodgers thing is just, it's a baseball wide issue. Some teams have gotten away with it, but even the Phillies have had their fair share in terms of organization, injuries. Their top prospect, Andrew Painter, he was expected to be a piece of either the rotation or the bullpen this season. He ended up having to get Tommy John as well. You look at the depth chart of every Major League Baseball franchise, they're all having an injury problem right now with either elbow, forearm, shoulder inflammation, you name it, any pitching injury under the sun that involves whatever their throwing arm is. But I don't know how you combat it. The Dodgers, Andrew Freeman did sound sincere in his pregame meeting a couple weeks back that we also had filmed on the Bleed Lows podcast, if you want to check that out. But yeah, I don't know. It's just got to be a cultural thing that's going to change, and that takes time. So I don't think it's going to be immediate, but it changes my landscape of the offseason that what the Dodgers are going to have to do, because I don't think you can count on, some of these guys coming back. River Ryan's not going to be back next season. Sheehan's looking probably maybe mid next season. Tony Gonsolin's kind of be coming back, but, you have to give him a rehab year. Dustin May's kind of been all over the place with his injuries. I really think the Dodgers are just going to have to, at least in my opinion, going to have to blow some money after a starter that's at least durable enough to pitch 190 innings, or even if it's like someone like Blake Snell where, all right, the only injuries he has is like a groin injury and he walks a lot of guys. That's about it. But at least for the most part, you can count on him being out there every fifth day. And right now the Dodgers are just, they're getting eaten alive right now. It's very hard to come by for someone going every fifth day. The one guy they had was Gavin Stone, and he couldn't even last a full season this year. And I don't think there's anyone on their current roster, because even Yamamoto, as good as he's been in his career in Japan and coming over to the MLB, I don't really see him being, that type of guy that's going to, break the 200 innings mark. It just doesn't seem like that's being done anymore. But we'll see what happens in the future with all these pitching injuries, though.
Yeah, I also think that's what the Dodgers need to kind of this offseason pursue, some starting pitching that they can throw a lot of innings. Yeah, it's been quite the season with these injuries, and no, I'm aware that it's definitely an MLB thing. It's unfortunate to see a lot of these young guys, not. So next year is going to be tough, like you were saying. Some of these young guys won't come back. Otani is going to be coming back from injury, so he's going to be limited to innings. I just think the future of baseball is a 6-man rotation. Honestly, I've heard some players don't like it because they're used to, like, they have their routine where they pitch every fifth day. But I think the future is that if you want to save some of these guys and limit their innings, at least for the Dodgers, I think that's what we should have done. I think we had this discussion early on in the season, 6-man rotation. You would have limited a lot of these guys' innings and possibly maybe save them from injuries. I don't know, but I mean, I think it was worth a shot to do the 6-man rotation, and I hope they do implement it next season.
Yeah, well, thankfully, besides the pitching rotation being kind of a shell of itself right now, hopefully over the next 12 games, everybody can get healthy. That's why I say it's extremely important that the Dodgers get a first round bye. Skip that wild card round, get a couple more days off, let your starters rest, let your offense rest. I know everyone wants to say, oh, they don't need a layoff. The layoff ruins everything. No, it doesn't. It's too short of a sample size. This team particularly needs a break. I think everyone can agree on that. The way they had to fight this entire season, the amount of injuries that they've gone through. Everyone likes to say, "Hey, the Atlanta Braves, they had a lot of injuries and they're barely making the playoffs." Dodgers, they've had more injuries. They've had more guys on the IL. They've had more time spent on the IL. They've had more starting pitching and just pitching in general on the injury list this entire season. And look at them. They're like a game out of the Phillies, who are currently, when we're recording this, losing to the Brewers for the best record in baseball. They're leading the NL West, which is a very tight division right now. I don't think there's much more you could ask for in a season where it seemed like everything almost went wrong for the Dodgers. And even when they added Shohei Ohtani and he's doing what he's doing, Mookie Betts gets hurt and he's comes back and does what he's doing. I still think they're having a really good year. It's just the starting rotation is a big concern going forward to October. And I know that's going to be what we're going to be talking about over the next couple lives and, pregame thoughts before, when October rolls around. But at least the offense is healthy. That's the big thing right now. Most of those guys 1 through 9, the bench, I think that's pretty much set right now. It's just the pitching and how they're going to organize that once October rolls around. But let's look forward to these next couple games before we close out this episode here, because we've mentioned it a couple times. But yeah, the Dodgers, they're traveling to Miami for 3, and then they return home to face the Colorado Rockies for another 3-game set on their final homestand of the year before they face the San Diego Padres. But speaking of these first 2 series before that Padres series, what do the Dodgers have to realistically do, in your opinion? Like, do they have to just sweep these, take advantage of 2 bad teams, or what are your thoughts on these 2 series coming up? What do the Dodgers have to do?
I think they have to take 5 of 6 for sure. Just one loss. Probably the loss will come in Miami. I think they sweep the Rockies and get ready for the Padres. I'm not a big fan. I hate these series where you play 3 games at home, then you play another team for 3 games, and then you go back on the road to play that same team. It gets so, even as a fan, it gets monotonous. It's just, come on, play somebody else. But that's the way it's been. I think it's been like that for a couple of seasons now, where they're always playing the same team. But I think Dodgers have to come out, win some games. I mean, this is a good opportunity to get the offense rolling, keep it rolling from these 2 games they've had, and just keep it going, because you're going to face some teams that they're not the best teams in baseball, and so. Hopefully the offense can keep it going. Hopefully the pitching can give 5-6 innings per game, and so the bullpen can get some rest. But yeah, I mean that's the advantage of having like playing weaker teams, at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this series against Miami, it's a 3-game series. The potential Dodger pitchers that are going this series, I think they already announced it. It's going to be Bobby Miller, it's going to be Landon Knack, and it's going to be Jack Flaherty. All 3 of those guys need good rebound starts, in my opinion. Miller, if he's going to be a part of your plans in October, because there's literally no other option, you're just hoping that he can get his mechanics right, hoping he's healthy, and hopefully he can be an impactful arm, whether he's in the bullpen or is in like an opener role or whatever they want to use him for. And then Landon Knack is, dependent on, if Gavin Stone's healthy, if Clayton Kershaw's healthy. He just, in my opinion, just seems like the Dodgers' logical number 4 starter. If all hell like just break loose and everything goes wrong and everybody ends up being injured. And then Jack Flaherty, in his start against the Braves, that's a start against a team that's going to be in the playoffs. That was a playoff-like atmosphere, and he didn't really deliver to the best of his ability. He struggled with command the entire day. I know Oral Hershiser said it was probably something with the humidity, but hey, you can't really make excuses. Flaherty didn't really make excuses in his post game either. So you're hoping for rebound starts with them. And then in Colorado, thankfully, 3 of those games in Colorado are at Dodger Stadium before the last series of the year where they're at Coors Field. So hopefully everything's wrapped up before then. But, you're going to get another start with Buehler, Yamamoto, and then like so forth, like Miller again, and then last turn through the rotation. So I'm hoping that they can try to win all 6. I'm in agreeing with you. They got to at least take 5. Four games, that just seems like the reasonable ask from the team. get ready, just stay healthy before that series against San Diego, and hopefully you can wrap up the division that series and give your guys a little bit of rest. Hopefully the playoff seeding is kind of more set in stone. But yeah, I right now I want them to get the number 1 seed. I do think that's still important, bragging rights and all. But just to get that first round bye, they need to get the first or second seed. They need to win the division. So just so they can give these guys some rest. So I'm hoping they take advantage of this week's schedule.
Yeah, they definitely have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed. I think Phillies have a tiebreaker. So, technically, if they end up losing today, even though they're 1 game behind, they're really 2 games behind. Yep, exactly. So same with the Padres. The Padres have they have the tiebreaker against us. So we need to increase that lead if we don't want to end up being a wild card team, So there's still a lot to play for, So hopefully that alone is the motivation to play against these, the Marlins and the Rockies, because sometimes, like I was saying earlier, there's complacency in these players. But I think this season's different because it's not where they have a 15-game lead. It's close. The Brewers are 2 games behind, I believe. The Padres are like 3.5, depending on what they do today in their game. So nothing's is set right now. So we got to keep playing to win games, not just to show up and see what happens. We got to definitely win games, blow these teams out, and just create our own destiny, which is by winning, not hoping. Oh, I hope they lose. I hope they lose, so that we can just go out there, win the games, and that'll take care of itself.
Yeah, I like that mindset. That's the mindset, the Dodgers and I had in 2021, which is the last year where they really had every single game count down to the wire. Yeah, they said, they were in a division race with the San Francisco Giants, ended up falling 1 game short, but they didn't want to play in that wild card round. And back then it was even worse. It was just 1 game. And right now, given the situation of the starting rotation and the health of the team and how it's been all season, I don't think they want to play that 3-game series immediately after the regular season either. I think they want that break. They want that opportunity. So, yeah, these games do matter. I don't think the division is going to be wrapped up until, Thursday, September 26th at the end of that Padres series. That'll probably be when, they're popping bottles for champagne. Somebody is, at least. So, and it's more than likely hopefully going to be the Dodgers. But other than that, that'll be it for this episode of the Bleed Los podcast, this weekly rewind edition. Be sure to like and sub the channel. We're going to have a couple lives over this next couple weeks, getting ready for the postseason. We're going to have a lot of content for whenever we're at Dodger Stadium, given the pregame, postgame coverage. But any other closing thoughts, Carlos, before we get out of here?
No, let's go Dodgers. Let's win some of those series and clinch the playoff berth. But it's important what you said. It's like I remember when we kept winning titles, and it just I feel like Roberts, just the Dodgers in general, didn't appreciate the champagne, the celebration. I think this year will be different. I think once they actually win it, there's going to be a big gasp and a big celebration. This one. For some reason, this year, to me, it seems different. It's not, nothing was kind of handed to them this year. They didn't have this huge 20-game lead or whatever it is, where they're cruising to the end. This one, they're fighting hard for. And so I think that, when they pop those champagne bottles, I think there's going to be like, it's going to be a different type of celebration this year.
Yeah, like I said, Dodgers' magic number to clinch a division is 9 games, so hopefully they're popping champagne soon, and hopefully it's getting that magic numbers dropping, to 4 or 5 by the end of this week when we have our weekly Bleed Los live. So, like I said, that'll do it for this episode, and we'll see you for the next one.
This episode has been brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here.